Welcome to the Just Ingredients podcast. I'm Cara Lynn, and here we talk all things nourishing to the mind, body, and soul. This is a place where you can find just good ingredients to life. Have you ever noticed your laundry detergent doesn't have ingredients on the label? We live in a world where chemicals aren't explained, and it can be hard to find laundry detergents and household cleaners made with truly safe ingredients. At Molly Suds, we believe you deserve better. Molly Suds makes safe, simple, effective laundry detergents and household cleaners that you can feel good about bringing into your home. Unlike conventional brands, our products are always free from 1,4-dioxane, optical brighteners, ethyl oxalates, formaldehyde, and artificial dyes and fragrances. We believe strongly in ingredient integrity and transparency, which is why we list all of our ingredients right there on the label. See the difference and start a non-toxic relationship today by visiting www.mollysuds.com and using coupon code JUSTPODCAST for 10% off your first order. That's JUSTPODCAST for 10% off your first order. Born in France and raised with homeopathy, Guillaume has over 25 years of experience in marketing homeopathy and natural medicines. He worked on and helped develop the Homeopathic Category in France, Spain, Mexico, and the USA. Founder of Olloïs in 2012, the first line of lactose-free and organic certified homeopathic single medicines in America. Guillaume is also co-owner of Sevene Group, specialized in the manufacturing of seed-to-shelf homeopathic medicines in France, and owners of Olloïs. Guillaume's passion is to share with retailers and consumers his vision of a natural way to better health. Welcome to the show. I am really excited to have Guillaume here today. I met him at Expo West this year, and he is one of the owners of a homeopathic company that I absolutely fell in love with. And so I asked him if he would come on the podcast to teach you followers a little bit more about homeopathic, since it's something that maybe some of you don't know much about. And so I'm really happy that he's here today. So thank you, Guillaume, for being here.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for having me.
Why don't you tell my listeners just a little bit about yourself, your background, and maybe how you became interested in homeopathics?
Well, thank you very much. I was born and raised in France, and in Europe, especially in France, homeopathy is very, very developed. My mother, when I was a kid, even though she's not a homeopath at all, every time I would fall, she would, ask me to open my mouth and put those pellets under my tongue, and I felt right away much better. And so I thought, this was something normal that everybody would use. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of the French population uses homeopathy on a regular basis. So that's kind of how I got familiar with homeopathy. I raised with it. And then I thought it was something that I wanted to be involved with as a professional in my career. So I started to work in this industry over 25 years ago. And when I moved to the United States, like 15 years ago, I was actually surprised not to see that many homeopathic remedies out there. And so I thought it was something that I needed to help with and be involved to try to develop this category in America.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to ask you more about why you think we don't use it very often in America, but I want to start at the very beginning, the very basics for my listeners. Can you just explain to them what homeopathy is and how homeopathics work?
Yes, absolutely. So homeopathy is a natural medicine using mostly plants and minerals that is based on the principle of likes cure likes. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But first, we need to realize that our body has its own ability to heal, right? If you cut your skin, I guarantee even if you don't do anything, eventually it's going to heal up. So, but we don't want to be, sick for days and wait just for our body to defend itself. So what we do with homeopathy, we speed up the natural healing process of our body. It's not a conventional medicine that is going to go against symptoms, like it's not an antibiotic or an anti-pain, antihistamine, but it works with your body to stimulate your body and speed up that healing process. And the way it works, it's based on the principle of likes cure likes that I mentioned, which is that if a substance in a high dose is capable of causing symptoms to be harmful, if you take a micro dose of it, it's going to stimulate your body to react against those same symptoms. So basically what we do, we use those plants that can cause symptoms if you take, from Mother Nature, and we dilute them and we take microdose, homeopathic doses of that same substance, and it's going to stimulate our body against those symptoms.
So why don't you give them the example that you gave me when you were explaining this to me at Expo West about caffeine, how it can stimulate you, but then it can also help with sleep, right?
Yes, absolutely. I have like two examples that I always use because everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, one of them is coffee. It's a great example. If you take coffee, if you drink coffee, normally, except for my grandmother, who couldn't go to bed without drinking coffee. But normally, if you drink coffee, you stay awake. It keeps you awake. Well, using the same principle of likes cure likes, if you take a microdose of coffee, and in Latin is called Coffea cruda. We always use Latin names in homeopathy. Well, Coffea cruda is going to help you fall asleep, likes cure likes. And the other example that I always use is the onion. And we're going to talk hopefully about allergy because allergy season is coming up, and it's an amazing remedy. The onion, if you chop an onion, everybody knows it's going to cause watery eyes, sneezing, and maybe kind of like the allergy symptoms that we can have. So if you take a homeopathic dilution of the onion, in Latin it's allium cepa, it's going to help you with all those allergy symptoms of like watery eyes, sneezing, and runny nose.
That's so interesting. I loved those examples you gave me. So let me ask you, where did homeopathy come from? And is this a new science or has it been practiced for a really long time?
Well, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked because here in the United States, so few people, are familiar with homeopathy that you may think it's something new. But in fact, it's actually very old. It's over 200 years old. It's been discovered in early 1800s in Germany by a doctor called Dr. Hahnemann. And these are the first, in Europe at that time, you have to realize they didn't have any tools at their disposal, doctors, to really treat patients. They would like cut the blood, put some leeches in the bodies, so they would suck the blood out, or they would cut them so they would bleed out of the disease. But there was no medication that were being used. So Hahnemann was a very progressive doctor, and he was frustrated not to be able to help his patient. And one day he read this book from Hippocrates. Hippocrates, 400 years before Christ, is kind of like the founder of medicine, right? First do not harm comes from him. Hippocrates was the first one to even mention the idea of the principle of likes cure likes, called at that time the law of similars. But nobody had really implemented it or even made sure that it was a real thing. So this is what Hahnemann decided to do. He basically intoxicated patients and friends and families with high dose, or not lethal, of course, but high enough to cause symptoms. So he would say, okay, if I give this remedy in high dose, these are the symptoms that are being caused. This is the toxicology of the substance, right? And then he said, okay, well, if I want to see if likes cure likes is true, I'm going to start diluting the remedy and give it to the same person. And so that's called the proving that he did back in the days, 200 years ago. And so at first, he would dilute the remedy, but not enough. So it would still be a little bit harmful. And then he would keep diluting it. And of course, at some point, the substance would become neutral. It wasn't harmful anymore, but it wouldn't help therapeutically either. So he could have stopped there and said, well, it's not working. But where he was a genius is that to keep diluting over and over and over. And sure enough, at some point, patients start with the same symptoms start to get better. And this is how he discovered that likes cure likes actually do work. And this is how homeopathy was discovered and invented.
Oh, that's so interesting. It makes me actually think that maybe Hippocrates used it, you know?
We don't know that, but maybe that would be incredible.
Right. Okay, so let's actually talk about some of those illnesses that maybe homeopathy works for. Can homeopathy work for things like the cold and flu?
Yes. So before, if you have like a few questions about therapeutic advice, I want to disclose that I am not a doctor. Whatever I'm going to share with you is either because it's on our labels as indication or my personal experience.
Perfect.
But having been in this, used it for like over 50 years, kind of know a little bit, but I'm not a doctor. So I wanted to make sure that your audience knows that.
I'm glad you said that.
Thank you very much. So that said, for cough and cold, homeopathy can be very, very useful. Actually, homeopathy can help with a lot of different conditions. But yes, cough and cold, there are a lot of different remedies. There is maybe one that comes to mind, which is aconitum, which helps with sudden fever and cough associated with cough and cold symptoms. But yes, it's very, very useful for cough and cold.
And then I know you said it helped with allergies, so I'm assuming that onion one helps with allergies?
Oh, yes. The onion one is one of my favorites, Allium cepa. For allergy, and this is the beauty with homeopathy as well, we can treat symptoms, but we can also help with the cause of the symptoms. Like, for example, allergy, the allergy symptoms are due to the buildup of histamine in our body. Right. So the more histamine you have, this is why the conventional drugs out there, they are antihistamine because they block the histamine. Well, if you want to do that naturally, and if you apply the principle of likes cure likes, we have this amazing remedy called histaminum. And guess what? It's the actual histamine, right? But homeopathically diluted. So if you take histaminum 30C, it's going to help your body by itself block or not build up so much histamine and therefore relieve the symptoms, because the origin of the symptoms comes from the histamine. So histaminum is a great systemic remedy, which is going to treat the cause. And then if you combine it with a symptomatic remedy to help with the symptoms themselves, which is the onion, Allium cepa, then you treat basically everything from the allergic reaction per se to the symptoms themselves. Combining those both is very, very helpful for allergies in general.
That's so interesting about the histamine. How you described it made me think about, and maybe I shouldn't even bring this up, but made me think about vaccines, because is that the same train of thought with vaccines, that it likes?
Yes. I mean, when you know what the vaccines are, let's say, for example, we take the flu shot, they take the actual virus, that flu virus that would make you sick, right? And they dilute it, and they obviously, the shot is a microdose of this same virus. It actually changes every year, so it's even more adapted to the actual virus. So this is the same idea, same principle, absolutely.
Okay, glad to know that. So let me ask you a few other illnesses that maybe homeopathy works for. Can it help for things like headaches?
Yes, headaches, even though complicated, because with homeopathy, we go, it's not like we have one medicine that's going to treat any type of headache or any type of pain, right? This is why when you go to a homeopathic doctor, the consultation is like maybe an hour and a half, because they have to understand, where does the headache come from? Why? Is it due to digestive disorder? Is it due to stress? Is it due to fatigue? Is it due to lack of water? I mean, there is so many different reasons why you have a headache. With homeopathy, we can, that's what doctors do, individualize the treatment based on the patient itself. That said, there are remedies that are more popular because they can handle a little bit of the majority of headache in general. The one that comes to mind is the belladonna. Belladonna 30C. I've had amazing feedback from people who told me they had headaches that they really couldn't even get rid of with conventional medicine, and and taking belladonna and didn't have them anymore. So just one example. I cannot and I will not say it's going to treat with, help with any type of headache all the time, but it can help. Yes.
Okay, so that makes sense then, because I know homeopathics can help like inflammation, stress, depression, but then again, you need to figure out the root causes of those illnesses before you choose which homeopathic's going to work best, correct?
Right. Exactly. For example, you just mentioned stress. Stress can be caused by three different circumstances. You can be stressed because of something that happened in the past, or something that is happening now, or something that's going to happen in the future. There is no other way to be stressed or reasons to be stressed. One of the three. And with homeopathy, we have a different remedy for each one of them. Like, for example, if you're being stressed for something that happened in the past, that would be Ignatia amara. I call it the grief remedy. If you have lost someone, if you lost your job, if you had a traumatic experience, etc., that causes stress. But if you are stressed because of what's going on around you at the moment, you are overwhelmed with what's going on, that would be another one called gelsemium. Gelsemium is amazing. I call it the working mom remedy. It's like, you do it all. You have to take care of the kids, of the family, of the partner, of your job. You just can't.
I need that one.
Yeah, well, of course, gelsemium. But if you are stressed because of something that's going to happen in the future, which happens a lot. I remember my son, every time he would have to go to school, he would be like so stressed. That would be Argentum nitricum. I call it the stage fright remedy. You see exactly what I mean by stage fright.
Right.
But it could be if you start a new job, or if you have an interview, etc., etc. So yes, that's the beauty of homeopathy. Without having to be too complicated, you can fine tune a little bit more and find the remedy that you need for yourself. And of course, the last one, because 99% of the time when you're stressed, you have difficulty falling asleep. Let's not forget about the coffee one, the coffea cruda. This one is typical. You're very tired. You go to bed, you think you're going to sleep like a baby. And the second you lay down, you start thinking about a million things, like, hyperactivity of the brain. Well, coffea cruda will help you very well in this case.
That's good to know. I need to actually give my husband that one for the sleep. So I know some listeners have probably never used homeopathics. So why don't you tell them, how do we take these? And are there different forms that they can buy, or they're all just little pellets?
No. We at Olloïs only have little pellets for now, which is the original way of taking homeopathy, which is basically, you have a tube of 80 pellets inside. You put the tube upside down and you twist the cap and you extract the pellets and you put them under the tongue. It's very important with homeopathy, and with anything in general, by the way, to let the remedy dissolve under the tongue, because the sublingual absorption way is the fastest absorption way after the intravenous one. It goes directly into your bloodstream. Once it's in your blood, it runs all over your body, and the internal effects of the medication is faster and better. So these are the most popular one form in the world, but you can also have cough syrups, creams, gels, eye drops. There are plenty of other forms out there that are available.
Okay, so easy to take. So I know people will ask, is this safe for kids? Is it safe for pregnant and breastfeeding moms?
So for pregnant and breastfeeding moms, you always have to have the disclosure, the disclaimer that says, please, consult a physician, which is very important. But the beauty of homeopathy in general is that it's so diluted. The substances, we are talking about microdose. The main benefit is that there is no known side effect. There is no known drug interaction. There is no known contraindications. So, I've given it to my kids since they were very little. They were raised with this. I was raised with it. As long as you have an immune system that can be stimulated, homeopathy will work whatever the age is and whatever your condition is.
Okay, so with that, I have a question. Can you take homeopathics along with prescription medicines?
Absolutely. Because there is no drug interaction, between homeopathy and anything else that you could be taking, whether it's prescription drug, over-the-counter supplements, etc. It is not only possible, I think it's very appropriate to do that. Homeopathy is the number one complementary and alternative medicine in the world, by the WHO, so the World Health Organization. It is categorized as a complementary and alternative medicine, but for me, I do not like the word alternative. It's not an alternative. It's a complementary. You have to complement. As a matter of fact, 46% of French physicians, I'm talking about medical doctors, include homeopathy in addition to their regular, prescriptions out there. It is very good. That said, and if you want to, do what I did, I would always recommend, maybe first of all, you go to a doctor to identify exactly what you have. You have to know what your symptoms are. Of course, if you have runny nose, or it's okay, but you may want to make sure that your kids, for example, have exactly know what they have. Then you start and you try with homeopathy. Give it 1 day, 2 days. If it doesn't work and you have to give antibiotics, go ahead. But guess what? 90% of the time, you will see that you don't even need to go there. Why don't you start with homeopathy, see how it goes. And if you need to complement with a prescription drug or an over-the-counter medicine, it's absolutely fine. I would start with homeopathy first.
I love that you call it a complementary and not an alternative method. So that makes a lot of sense. And I'm also blown away that so many doctors in France tell their patients to use that, because here in the United States, you would not get that from very many doctors at all.
No, not yet. I mean, we can talk for hours about why you asked the question, why is it not developed that much in the United States? It has to do with the big pharmas and things like that in the early 1900s. But guess what? When it started very strong in the United States back in the end of the 1800th century, the 1800s or early 1900s, homeopathy was one of the along with Native American, herbal medicine, was the most used therapeutic method in the United States. You had homeopathic hospitals. There is even a statue of Dr. Hahnemann in Washington, D.C. I mean, it was big,
wow,
like it was everywhere in the world, except that it kind of disappeared. Again, not going into much detail, but big pharmas took over here, and it has not been the case in other countries. This is why it's still so widely used around the world. But the good news is, in the United States, it's coming back very strongly. I mean, it's the fastest growing category right now in the United States, going faster than herbal medicine, faster than supplements, even faster than over-the-counter drugs. So it's coming back, and hopefully within a few years, it will be where it's supposed to be.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't realize it was coming back that strongly. So is the United States the only place that really doesn't use these anymore? Do all of the other countries still use homeopathics?
Yes, I mean, again, I'm not going to say that it's here in America. It's not used at all, because it's we are talking about a significant category now, even though obviously it's much smaller than conventional medicines or vitamins. But around the world, I mean, yes, in France, all over Europe, but especially in France, Germany, England. I mean, the royal family of England has been using homeopathy for centuries. The same person.
Wow.
No, the Queen Elizabeth. So India is big, Latin America. I mean, in Mexico, I was 2 years in Mexico. 80% of the Mexican population uses arnica on a daily basis. I mean, it's very widely used around the world.
It's so crazy to me that we don't use it as much here in the United States. So I guess it just comes down to educating the consumers of what homeopathy is and what's available to them out there. With you saying arnica, I know that one is becoming popular here in America, because more and more people are using that for pain, swelling, bruising, things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so question for you. Is homeopathics regulated at all, or do they need to be regulated?
They are very well regulated, actually, here in the United States. Same as other countries, by the way, pretty much all over the world, homeopathy is regulated as an over-the-counter OTC drug. medication. It's been actually regulated like this by the FDA since 1938 in the United States. Okay, so it's very important. You have a pharmacopoeia. In pharmaceutical, within the pharmaceutical industry, you have pharmacopoeias that define all the different medications available, etc. Well, there is in the United States a homeopathic pharmacopoeia, the HPUS, Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States. So it is widely regulated. This is very important for two reasons. Number one, the claims, the indications that we can put on the labels are OTC claims, not supplements. We were mentioning allergies, for example, where a supplement could just mention allergy, but an OTC, can say watery eyes, sneezing, runny nose, etc. It's a bit more details. I mean, when you think about it, we are regulated like the Tylenol. But so that's one thing that is important to know. The indications are on the labels and it's more detailed. But the other side, which is even, I think for me, even more important, is that we fall under the CGMP, the good manufacturing practices of the pharmaceutical industry. So we have to comply with all the pharmaceutical regulations and pretty much guarantee that our medicines are well made.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's good to know. So I'm assuming with being regulated like that, there's been a ton of studies and research on homeopathics that people can go find for themselves.
Yes, there's a lot of scientific evidence that homeopathy works. Of course, there is always, the way I explain it is there's two ways. You have the non-scientific way and the scientific way to explain that homeopathy works. I like to start with the non-scientific one, which is my personal take on it, is that, when you have 200 years of history and billions of people throughout those 200 years using it, it has to work. If you take something and it doesn't work, are you going to really taking it your entire life? I mean, I don't think so, right?
Right.
Or a doctor using homeopathy, if he would not help any patient, if homeopathy didn't work, he would not even have any patient for that matter. So the fact that doctors have been using it for their entire professional career and helping hundreds and thousands of patients with homeopathy, it has to work. There is no way you can fool that many people for that long.
Right.
But that's a non-scientific way, of course. The scientific way is that there are clinical studies published. In order to publish a clinical study, and I'm not talking about the Olloïs newsletter here. I'm talking about very
true
serious
studies.
We are talking about Lancet, Pediatrics, the American Journal of Oncology. These are very prestigious medical journals that published clinical studies following the exact same protocol as any other clinical studies on prescription drugs or over the counter, which is double-blind, randomized versus placebo. So the two groups of patients, one with placebo, the other one with the actual remedy, none of them know which one is which, nor even the doctor who is measuring how the symptoms evolve. So they are not biased. And the placebo group always has an average of 30% efficacy. Some people say it's the power of the mind. My take on that is going back to what I said before, our body has its own ability to heal. Even if they were not taking anything, they would probably feel better 30% of the time because of our body. But when you look at the group with the actual remedy, and you see that there is like 40, 50, 60% improvement, as long as there is a significant difference between the placebo group and the Verum group, which is the one that has the real remedy, you have to admit it works. It is not placebo. And of course, the last one is, what about animals? I mean, I think I remember you mentioning Arnica for your dog, but it's the same thing. I mean, the placebo effect on animals or babies, you really can't measure that. So it works. Homeopathy works for sure.
Right. I love that there's clinical studies, and we should probably say that, because you did mention that, I showed a story the other day of giving arnica to my dog. So homeopathics not only are safe for people and babies, but pets as well, correct?
Absolutely. Pets. This is actually why we developed a line just for pets called Ollos for like 12 different conditions from nausea to anxiety to digestion, worms, etc. It works amazingly well with animals.
I love that. Okay, so now if my listeners are like, oh, wow, I want to check out some homeopathics, let's tell them, are all homeopathics made the same? And what should people be looking for when they're going to go buy a brand?
On paper, in theory, they're all made the same because you have to follow the pharmacopoeia. But the pharmaceutical process and the origin of the substance is crucial. If you take a plant and then you convert it, which is what we do with homeopathy, you take the plant, you convert it into a macerate, which is mother tinctures. But if the plant itself doesn't have all the properties or is being damaged during transit, or there are so many circumstances that can alter the quality of the original substance. And then if you start making dilutions from a substance that does not have the optimal properties, well, then your finished product cannot be as good as another one. This is why we care so much about every single step of the way. And as you know, we have our own farms in France. We plant organic seeds. It's a national park. It's a beautiful, the company is called Sevene in France, and it's a national park. We merged like a couple of years ago, and we are one of the only companies that can control the process from seed to shelf. And this is super important. Planting your organic seeds, having the best and pure soil, the water. We use our own water. We literally handpick each one of the plants and flowers one by one, put them in a basket, and walk to the lab where we make the pharmaceutical, where we make the mother tinctures. So there is only 30 minutes difference between when the plant is picked up and when it's starting the manufacturing process. And as you know, plants, flowers, fruits, if you wait a week to start using them, they lost some properties. So it's very important that we can control the process and make it happen very, very quickly and not damaging the plant. And once you have the best quality of the actual active ingredient and you follow all the GMP, the good manufacturing practices for the pharmaceutical part, you have the best finished product out there.
That is why I fell in love with your company, because you guys know exactly what happens from seed all the way to shelf. And I love that you guys take such good care of the plant the whole way. I mean, from using your own water and organic seeds and having the best soil. And then when you guys told me that you pick the plant and walk it to the lab and then, do the manufacturing, I was just amazed, because not many homeopathic companies are like that out there.
No. We are one of the very few in the world to do that. Yeah.
Are there actually any other homeopathic companies that do it the way you do?
Yes, but not in the United States.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yeah. It's and it's not just growing your plants. It's doing it in an organic environment. We have the organic certification that actually is given to the actual property itself. In France, to obtain an organic certification in France, it's actually much more complicated than here in the United States. For example, if you plant a seed in the US and you grow it organically, yes, you can get the organic certification. Not in France. In France, the seed itself that you use has to be organic certified in the first place. And it's very, very difficult. They're very rare to find organic certified seeds out there. So if you don't have an organic seed, you have to plant the seed, make it grow one time, organically, obviously, with an organic environment, and then replant it again. And then do it 3 times. And once you only did it 3 times, then the plant can be certified organic. I mean, this is outstanding, because, who does that?
Oh my goodness. I actually didn't know that France had those regulations. That's amazing. Yeah. And for those listening, they grow their seeds in France, if we didn't mention that. And the company's name, I don't think we've said it this whole time, is Olloïs. So Ollois.
Thank you. Yes, that's the name of the brand. The company is called Sevene, but the brand here in the United States is Olloïs. You're right.
And so can people find your products in regular stores here in America, or they have to just buy online?
Both. I mean, we started 10 years ago with one store in LA. And I always be grateful for that one individual buyer, store owner who gave us the chance to see if the product would be successful. But now we are over 2,000 retailers around the United States. I mean, of course, we are not the biggest homeopathy company out there by far, but we are growing. We are the fastest growing one. And we have, for example, we have national distributions at Whole Foods. We have national distributions at Fresh Time, H-E-B in Texas. We have large chains using, but we are not in the conventional chains like Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, etc. More like health food stores. This is where we focus our energy, and want to be more probably in line with our demographic, with the type of customers. The fact that we launched the first lactose-free remedies, because historically the pellets were made of sucrose and lactose, and we were able to remove the lactose. So, we had to, I think our demographic is more in line with people going to buy in health food stores than at Walmart. But, I have no problem with Walmart at all. But it's true that we focus more there. Or online, of course, at Olloïs.com. You can find it.
Well, let's just hope that we educate more and more people and it becomes more mainstream so that you eventually do sell in Walmart.
Well, we'll see. Who knows? I'm sure it's gonna get there. It has to.
So if my listeners want to learn more about homeopathy or learn more about your company, where can they go?
Well, I would definitely recommend to go online at Olloïs.com, Ollois.com. We explain a little bit what I just mentioned, but there is also a symptom search option. So if you look for a specific remedy and you put your symptom, it's going to give you the different remedies that are associated with this symptom. But of course, you can also feel free to follow us right on Instagram, Olloïs_USA, because we try to educate people. Like we post. We do stories on what the onion does, allium cepa, coffee, arnica. So we can be educated like that also through social media. And of course, you do a great job also mentioning those.
Well, let me tell my listeners something because I forgot to mention this. So something that scared me about homeopathics at first was I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know which one to use when. And I love the little booklet that comes in your starter pack because you guys, if you buy the starter pack, the booklet tells you exactly which homeopathic to use for different symptoms. So if you're dealing with can't fall asleep or digestion issues or constipation or diarrhea or whatever, cramps, it will tell you suggested ones to use. So don't be afraid to start homeopathics just because you think you have no idea which one you would use.
Right. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, some stores, they have a big selection of homeopathy. So when you go to a retail store, and you see this wall of little tubes of pellets, could be intimidating. But, what we did with Olloïs is we created on our displays, it shows exactly which remedy, what it is for. But we also have those little booklets that you mentioned in the store that we do ship with any online orders as well. We even created a wheel, very fun to use in the stores, and you have it by symptoms, and you see all the different categories: digestive, women, pain, etc. And you turn the wheel to point out the symptom, and it's going to give you the remedy that you need. So we try to think outside the box. As you said, it's very important to educate people and to make sure that we are as transparent as possible and as user-friendly as possible for everybody to access it.
Well, that's what I love about you guys, because one, you're transparent, and two, it is very user-friendly. So if you're just beginning, don't be scared. But I remembered one other question or one other little worry I had when I started homeopathics, and that was, what if I give the wrong homeopathic? It's not a concern, right?
No, not at all. Again, likes cure likes, right? So if the remedy that you take does not match with the symptoms that you have, it's going to do nothing.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, there is no potential overdose or, the side effects are unknown at that time after 200 years. Worst case scenario, nothing's going to happen because it's not the right remedy.
Right. Okay. That was a big concern of mine when I first started. So if you guys are starting out and accidentally give the wrong one or don't know which one to give and you try one and it's not the right one, there's no harm to the body in doing that.
Right.
So thank you so much for being here on my show today. I know people have learned a lot from you, learned the basics. Is there anything you want to tell them more about your company that we missed, or why your company should be the homeopathic that they buy?
Well, thank you for the opportunity again. I mean, we try to innovate. We try to evolve. We want to bring homeopathy to the 21st century. It's a very old medicine. And unfortunately, for decades and decades and decades, it was the same thing over and over. And at some point, people, either didn't pay attention to it or it got lost a little bit. And we want to revive that. And so we are innovating. I mean, literally being the first ones to launch a lactose-free remedy. By the way, yes, we did not mention that, but because 90% of the remedies are plant and mineral based, the only thing that would prevent them from being vegan friendly was the lactose. So now we have 90% of our remedies are vegan friendly, and there are lots of vegan out there that would never buy homeopathic pellets before because of the lactose. So our motto is homeopathy for all. We want everyone to access homeopathy, even if they are lactose intolerant or if they are vegan. Everybody should be able to use it. And that's what we try to do. But, we also innovate by getting the organic certification. We just got yesterday the kosher certification for our plant-based remedies.
Oh, good for you guys. Congrats.
Thank you. But, there is so many certifications that we have that would make really, really stand out. Olloïs is different from every other brand out there for sure.
Right. Well, thank you so much. So I always end my show with asking my guests what they have found to be the best ingredient to life. What would you say it is?
It's a great question. May I have two?
Yes, you may.
because my number one, actually they are equally important to me. Number one, it would be nature. Nature is ingredient of life for me. We don't exist without nature. We have to preserve nature. We have to use nature. We have to work with and live with nature. We have to preserve nature. Otherwise, there's no life. So for me, it's the most important ingredient in our life is nature, is the planet. But on a personal standpoint, my ingredient is happiness. I think without happiness, you get sick, you get sad, you don't perform. Happiness can change everything. So happiness, I think, is in our head. We can decide to be happy or not. And for those who decided to be happy, life is so much better.
Oh, I love your ingredients. And I love that nature can help you become happy. So they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for being here and taking the time to come explain the basics of homeopathics to us. And I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity and so much for what you're doing, and not just for homeopathy, but for health in general. I wish we had more people like you out there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Just Ingredients podcast to learn more about your health and good ingredients to life. Plus, get daily tips at just.ingredients on Instagram.